Welcome, everybody, to Circle Back to You. I'm your host, Jason Wilson. Today, we're back with Asif Ali, arena football legend. Welcome to the show, brother.
Welcome, hey, appreciate you having me back. We're back
Oh, it's
NFL Week 1. I'm fired up.
Yeah, I'm fired up too, man. Week 1 was, oh man, we had so many surprises, but I think at the top of the list, Aaron Rodgers' injury that knocked him out for the complete season, man. What a devastating thing to happen.
And it's really, I mean, it kind of speaks to the nature of the business of the NFL and obviously all professional sports for that matter. Obviously, contact sports more so than any others, but obviously the NBA too, which is also a physical sport in its own right. Obviously, when you invest that much into an aging prospect, I mean, you look at, let's say, like a LeBron. I mean, nowadays with technology and medicine and nutrition science, you obviously know about this, by exercise science and, different types of ways that athletes have to take care of themselves. You would assume that guys such as Aaron Rodgers, obviously, we look at Tom Brady, we assume, oh my God, everyone can do that, right? Play till they're 46 and what have you, right? With almost very little to no injuries. But obviously, a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who made a lot more plays with his feet, as opposed to a Tom Brady, as opposed to a Peyton Manning, basically was reliant later in his career, I want to say he relied more on the run game as of lately, but he still was able to put up those massive astronomical numbers. Obviously against my Niners, he struggled. So that was great to watch that, but I mean, it's really, it just tells you, kind of, blink of an eye, how quickly, landscape of the NFL can change. I mean, we can go back to, such as Trent Green after Rodney Harrison hit him. We can go back to, obviously, I mean, we can just, Tom Brady after Drew Bledsoe goes out. Obviously Aaron Rodgers, at this point in his career, obviously suffering that level of injury to Achilles, it's going to definitely have an impact because of what we talk about Aaron Rodgers being a quarterback who's so accustomed to making plays with his feet. And, ultimately now, I mean, you look at the Jets, I mean, they have a great stellar defense. Zach Wilson, he played solid, I want to say, in the second half. But, I mean, ultimately, they relied on the run game, Breece Hall. They obviously had Garrett Wilson obviously make plays, right? And Robert Saleh obviously, could be a great coach and a defensive, mastermind when he was also here at the 49ers. I think that's pretty much what, carried the Jets to the victory over the Bills. And obviously, the secondary making it very difficult for Josh Allen and forcing them to turn the ball over, 4 times or 3 times in the game.
Right.
So, great win for the Jets as a whole, but obviously looking forward to the season, the rest of the season, it really kind of deflates, in my opinion, the momentum, but not necessarily for them to compete, for a wild card spot. I just think for the AFC East because of a Miami Dolphins team with a Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, right? All those weapons, Jalen Waddle, right? They also got better on defense with Jalen Ramsey. You also look at the Bills. The Bills will be back. Not necessarily be back, but I mean, I think they'll play better. Josh Allen will play better. In the next couple games. Maybe not. We'll see if they get it together. And I think obviously the Patriots. They played the NFC champs. I mean, to the wire. Yesterday or day before yesterday. Mac Jones had a great game, over 300 yards passing. I think two or three touchdowns. And they're very close. They came short at the end. So I think that's why it's going to be tough sledding for the Jets in the AFC East. To basically climb that proverbial ladder. They were able to be 6-3 last year with Zach Wilson. At one point. So there's a very strong chance that they can definitely replicate some competitiveness within the division. But it's just going to depend on how well everyone else plays. I mean, Miami, they ended up being a wild card team. The Bills ended up winning the division last year. I mean, it could definitely, be just be tops, just flipped around in terms of the Dolphins taking the division, the Bills winning, that taking that wild card spot. But yeah, back to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this is, at this point in his career, I mean, I'm not sure what's left. I'm not sure, how well he can recover from his injury because obviously, yeah, you see guys like LeBron James, obviously Peyton Manning when he was 36, when he went to Denver, he came back from that neck fusion surgery. Tom Brady didn't really suffer too many debilitating injuries later in his career, which was, kind of unprecedented, for a quarterback, or any player for that matter in the NFL. But then obviously you look at LeBron James and we kind of expect guys like the greatest of all time, like LeBron and Tom Brady, to basically be the standard for guys like such Aaron Rodgers, who's obviously going to be 40 years old in December. So, I mean, do I roll the dice on a 40-year-old quarterback, for how many years? Or, do we basically, try to see, what options are out there. Obviously, one of the, names have been floated around on by the local or the talk show radio hosts, on NFL Game Day, as well as called the Colin Cowher was Tom Brady, to see if they could, maybe look into getting Tom Brady. Colin Kaepernick has also expressed interest. I know we talked about Colin Kaepernick last season.
Right.
We'll see if Colin Kaepernick gets his name in the mix. Obviously, I think he's been blacklisted, so it's going to be tough sledding. I said that last year. I'm going to say that again this year because there has been indications for me to believe otherwise. But I'm not sure how far they can go with Zach Wilson as quarterback. I still have to see a lot more for me to believe that they can be a playoff team without Aaron Rodgers.
Well, okay, let's say that you're the coach. If you're in this position, would you go with Zach Wilson or would you trade him and go with somebody else? I mean, possibly if Tom Brady was available, would you take him?
See, that's the thing, right? I mean, if Tom Brady is interested, if he's actually available, I mean, I don't know how interested he is at this point because, you're talking about him turning down a $350 million 10-year deal with Fox Sports starting next season to basically broadcast, right? Taking Greg Olson's spot, which really sucks because I love Greg Olson on the play-by-play. It's it's gonna be. I mean, it's a very, very interesting situation, right? Because you look at a guy like like Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's what, like 210, 215? Like he's only maybe like 20, 30 pounds. I mean, I'm hovering around 189, 190. So I mean, Zach Wilson isn't that much bigger than me. Same like and I mean, not saying that because he's never really had too much durability issues, but he did last year. Mike White had to step in, both for bad quarterback play and also for the injuries. I think that there would be some benefit if you could get Tom Brady, even if it's a 1-year rental, because if you're in win now mode, there is definitely, that roll the dice kind of mentality, which I wish the Niners would have done back when Tom Brady was on the market before he went to Tampa Bay, because they would definitely could have Tom Brady could have taken that team maybe the distance. Granted, the 2020 season when the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, the Niners, they did have, I think Bosa got injured. And so, I mean, defense player of the year, I'm not sure if Tom Brady would have been able to do much, but you did have Trent Williams on that team as well. So maybe Tom Brady could have definitely taken Niners to promised land. That's basically an ego kind of question mark for Kyle Shanahan. But anyways, we're not talking about now. We're talking about the Jets. And, obviously, I would say kind of for right now, you obviously stick with Wilson because you don't really have any other options. If it makes sense financially and draft capital wise to basically get Tom Brady and not have to mortgage too much of your future, then definitely, explore that at least explore it as an option in either case, right? Because, I don't even know who their third or fourth quarterback is on the roster right now. I just know there's Zach Wilson as a backup, and I'm not even sure who number 3 or 4 is. So I think there's definitely some Matt Ryan, I wouldn't, Matt Ryan, he's doing great as CBS commentary. I would not explore that because I don't believe at this stage of his career, what we saw last year, right? And you can obviously test this firsthand.
Yeah.
He doesn't look, he's not the same Matt Ryan of old, right? And
absolutely not.
I think right now the only viable option would either be a Tom Brady if Kaepernick is, Kaepernick, I mean, I don't think it's realistic at this point, but if there's anyone else who's potentially interested, like a solid quarterback who had just finished up last year and is on the market. See, I mean, one example who I thought would have been a great fit would have been a Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield obviously being locked by the Buccaneers, you saw how well he played on Sunday against the Vikings. So I mean, there's not too many options right now on the free agent market. So I think right now you kind of have to stick with Wilson and kind of keep that Tom Brady in the back pocket, at least as an exploration. So
awesome. So man, let's recap what happened in week 1.
Okay, let's go. So we actually let me recap our picks because I have to go down the list and remember what we picked. Remember what I picked and say how right or wrong we were.
Yeah, I missed a few.
You did.
I did.
But hey, you also got a few too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we both picked the Jets over the Bills, or maybe I picked the Bills. Did I pick? No, let's start from top. Lions and Chiefs. We both picked the Chiefs incorrectly. Lions won that game in a shocker to open up the season.
Yes.
First, let me get your immediate reaction for that game. What was your take on Lions' performance?
Well, I had said that, a lot of people around the league said that their defense is an elite defense, and they proved it. So, I think that made a huge difference in the game.
I do too, but I also think that Jared Goff, what people were not really, if you weren't playing fantasy and Jared Goff wasn't on your team last year, then you weren't really paying attention to him, but he was on my fantasy team last year, and he was instrumental helping me get to a 3rd place finish my fantasy league. Jared Goff was basically lighting up, the entire, NFC North quietly. The fact that he didn't have a defense last year, and now he does, kind of speaks volumes to how well, basically Thursday night spoke volumes to how well this Lions team can be. how high their ceiling could be potentially if they played to their full potential. David Montgomery at 74 yards, on the ground. Jared Goff at 250 yards through a passing and a touchdown. Receiving wise, you got Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra Brown, right, with a touchdown, 71 yards. So I mean, really balanced offense. For the Lions as well. Obviously, the defense, basically takes the glory for how well they played the the Chiefs wide receiving core. Obviously, it also speaks to how much the Chiefs missed Chris Jones, for not being able to pressure up the middle. Chris Jones, but I think ultimately missing Travis Kelce was really the difference maker because Mahomes didn't have that home run target to basically, or home run hitting, kind of like a Tyreek Hill or kind of like, even like a Juju like last season, to where, you could expect someone to come up big when everyone else is not producing. The receiving core for the Chiefs are very young. You obviously have Tony returning. You have, I'm not even sure who else they have. I mean, it's just a bunch of, either first or second year players. And essentially, the chemistry was not there. So I think that's basically, I mean, it's illustrative of two things: how good the Lions can be, and I think the Chiefs can potentially right the ship because you can't count them out at any point in the season as long as they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But essentially, I think that, with all that said, I really think the Lions are for real. I think it was a statement win for the Lions. And I think, the NFC North is now put on notice, as well as the rest of the NFC.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But, missing Travis Kelce in that game was a huge factor.
Absolutely. But, I think since the Chiefs are going to miss Travis Kelce for another 3 to 4 weeks, I mean, they got to figure it out one way or the other. And it's the NFL, right? So injuries happen all the time, right? We just talked about Aaron Rodgers going down. The Jets still found a way to win. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's just, the best teams find ways to win. Patrick Mahomes was on record today saying, like, this kind of motivates them to come to play better and become better as a team. So when the season progresses, they'll just work harder towards that goal, and they love the negativity because they can thrive off that and use it as motivation. And they've done that, historically over the past 4 to 5 seasons, against my Niners, 4 years ago, against, the Eagles last year, against, against all odds, the Patrick Mahomes is just someone, and Andy Reid is someone you can't bet against, as long as, they're playing. So, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm definitely excited to see, how well the Lions can take it. They're a young team, with a lot of great potential. And if the defense continues playing consistently, that's basically the key word, consistency, then the Lions could definitely go the distance. Yep. All right, Bengals and Browns. We both picked the Bengals. We were both wrong by a large margin.
Yeah, we were wrong about that.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson. Joe Burrow only threw for 82 yards, the highest paid NFL player in history. Was less than 50% completion with 14 of 31 completions on the day with 82 yards passing. Deshaun Watson was 16 of 29. A little bit higher completion percentage, much more higher passing yards at around 154 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Nick Chubb, obviously, arguably the best running back in the league behind Chris McCaffrey. 18 carries, 106 yards. I mean, this Jamar Chase was pedestrian. So Browns defense came up big. Obviously, Myles Garrett, had a few sacks. So obviously the Browns came out 24-3. I think what this game showed me was that now that Deshaun Watson has put all the controversy behind him, and now that the defense of the Browns, is basically, still, in full strength, this team can also be a very dangerous dark horse team in the AFC, especially in the AFC North in that division. So definitely watch out for the Browns. And as for the Bengals, we'll see how well they play. Obviously they're in my opinion, the Bengals are kind of like the Chiefs. You can never count them out. They're more of a second half of the season team to look out for. They can get hot in any given moment's notice. I'm not going to take this game as as put the nail in the coffin for the Bengals, but Joe Burrow is definitely going to get an earful, I'm sure, from from Zach Taylor, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of of adjustments they're going to make. So
yeah, I don't know what happened to him in that game, but I mean, poor performance.
Yeah. All right. Ravens Texans 25-9. We both picked the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 169 yards and a pick. CJ Stroud actually had a pretty good rookie showing, 28-44 for 242 yards. Obviously, it wasn't enough to get the job done, but the Ravens were obviously going into a rookie team with a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback. So, I mean, not much to say there. Now, yeah. Buccaneers and Vikings. I believe we both picked the Vikings, and we're both wrong, 20-17. Yep. Baker Mayfield was 21 of 34 for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of them was to Mike Evans. I mean, it looked like a very, I mean, Baker looks like he's locked in and focused, and obviously to get a road game like that is huge. Baker Mayfield last year, he had some moments with the Rams. The same thing kind of with the Lions is what I'm going to say for the Buccaneers. They're going to have to. I want to see consistency from Baker because we've kind of seen him go up and down over the years, and so we'll see how that shapes out. But I'm definitely excited to see how he plays because Baker's at his best when the chip's on his shoulder. Next up, Falcons Panthers. We both picked the Falcons.
Yes,
and we're
sir.
both right. Okay,
Yes,
I want to
sir.
get your take on this. 24-10. Desmond Ritter, 150 yards, only a touchdown. Tyler Algier, 75 yards, 15 carry, 2 touchdowns. Kyle Pitts, 44. So, what was your take on the Falcons' win over the Panthers?
Well, I'm going to say this, man. That defense has completely made a 180-degree change on that squad. And, what we saw was 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and a couple of stops on 4th down. So, I mean, that hasn't happened in my God, since what, 2017? We've seen those kinds of numbers from the defense. So, I mean, it's been a long time coming. I think they did an excellent job. And of course, on the offense, Bijan Robinson did an excellent job at running back. I mean, I think that was a huge factor for them as well. The pass protection, I think, needs vast improvement. And, the thing about it is that, everybody got mad at Matt Ryan when he was quarterback and his completion ratio or whatever. But, man, if there's no pass protection, what can he do? He's going to get sacked.
Yeah, I think ultimately, Desmond Ritter, I mean, this is a great showing for him, being a young quarterback, second-year player. I think it was great, even with all the pressure, like you mentioned. Brian Burns, like I mentioned, when we made our picks last week, I knew Brian Burns was going to get his. He ended up getting 2 sacks on the day, right? He's one of the premier edge rushers, defensive linemen in the NFL. So I think, that was basically, that showed itself, right, on Sunday against like you said, the O-line. But yeah, take it with a grain of salt because it is against Brian Burns and the boys, right? So, I mean, with that said, I agree with you. I do think, if the O-line can, kind of plaster it up, kind of bolster up, they're shore up that front, front 5, and especially on the left side. I mean, because I don't know what happened that, but I just saw highlights and I saw, all the sacks. But I think that's basically what's going to be, the make or break for the Falcons. A young team. It's a great win, a great momentum win for a young team. And I think, there's a lot to build on. I'm not anticipating. I mean, the expectations are high either way for the Falcons, but, it's something to build on, especially to open up the season, especially against a divisional opponent, right? Because those games are always toughest. So,
yeah, it was a great win, but man, we have a hard schedule ahead of us.
Absolutely.
it doesn't get easier.
Well, I mean, and, again, it's a rebuilding year, right? You're basically, like I said, young quarterback, young offense, I mean, you do have Cordell Patterson, you do have, some other pieces, of both in receiving and the backfield, but, I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? I mean, ultimately, everything that you're going to build towards, I mean, Kyle Pitts was drafted last year, right? So, I mean, these are things that, it's still a young team, I mean, they're still building, but it's definitely promising, and obviously with the expectations not being lofty as it is, that means you're playing with house money. You win games, hey, I mean, all the more power to you. It's something for the team to build on and take that momentum and do something with it either in this season or in the future. So
yeah, I feel good about what they did on Sunday, man. I'm happy. I don't have any complaints.
Cardinals, Commanders, 2016. I picked the Commanders. Did you pick the Cardinals? I don't remember. But anyways, let's just keep going. So the stat lines on the day: Sam Howell, rookie debut, 19-31, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Brian Robinson, 59 carries. Samuel had 54 receiving yards. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the Cardinals are also in the rebuilding phase. Commanders, this is great for them as well, and a loaded NFC East where they're probably the worst team on paper. I think that so ultimately we'll see how that goes. But not much more to say.
I actually picked the Commanders for that one.
Okay, so you picked the Commanders, yeah. So I mean, that was great. So I think that's. Again, I think with Ron Rivera, coming into his 3rd or 4th season, right? I think his 3rd year with this team. There's a lot to. Again, they're in the same position as Arthur Smith. Building with a young team, building to something towards the future. It's not like you're going to make the playoff this year, but what you're building towards is something long term. Eventually, you can become a very competitive team. Down the line. So okay, now moving on along. Jaguars Colts 31-21. We both picked the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, obviously 2 touchdowns, 240 yards passing. Travis Etienne Jr., 77 yards on 18 carries for a touchdown. Calvin Ridley, 8 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's just it's remarkable, to see how well they put it together. But obviously, they have a lot of great talent. Also, a younger team, but now with experience, going into the ringer of the playoffs. And having those wins. And I think with Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I really feel the Jaguars should be favored to win the division again, only because I don't see anyone else in the AFC South who can contend. You got the Colts, you got the Texans, and you got the Titans who end up losing yesterday at New Orleans. And so yeah. Titans, Saints, speak of which, obviously not much to say here, 15-16. Saints at home, Derek Carr, 305 yards, touchdown and a pick, Ryan Tannehill. I mean, it was a very lackluster performance, both from Derek Carr and the Titans. I think the Saints gave the Titans a lot of opportunities to win the game, and they didn't capitalize on it. I'm sure Mike Vrabel is going to get his boys, kind of back in order, but it is what it is. Another game that was very close, Raiders at Broncos. Jimmy Garoppolo in his debut, 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Happy for my guy over there, Josh Jacobs, my fantasy MVP last year, 19 carries, 48 yards. Russell Wilson, man, I mean, his first game with Sean Payton, all the hype around, Sean Payton coming in and making his comeback. I mean, that's not a good way to start, especially against a divisional opponent at home.
Not at all.
Not at all. So, I mean, I'm not sure where this team is going to go from here, but, I'm looking forward to seeing how Jimmy does. He might surprise people in the AFC West. Rams Seahawks. This one shocked me. Rams Seahawks. I thought the Rams were going to take this. Sorry, the Seahawks were going to take this. Rams ended up dominating on both offense and defense. I mean, I don't even know how they put it together. Matt Stafford, 334 yards. Without Cooper Kupp, right? I mean, that's really, the really kind of the big kind of. That's why it was like, wow, for me personally, right? I mean, Matt Stafford was able to I want to say the run game was pretty much, the difference maker here, because three of the 3 touchdowns, 21 points out of the 30 points of the Rams were on the ground. Something that hasn't really been in their recipe for some time, but obviously they have had Cam Akers, Kyron Williams. He obviously had two touchdowns on the day. Geno Smith looked abysmal, right? Only 112 yards and a touchdown. Even though he had his comeback player of the year season last year. DK Metcalf only had 47 yards, receiving, and, Tyler Lockett only had 10 yards receiving. So, I mean, I'm not sure what more to say about the Seahawks. I think ultimately, being, in this division, the Rams are now leading the division by default by beating the Seahawks. Now, Niners, we're going to get the Niners game in a bit, but the Niners play the Rams on Sunday. So that's going to basically be for first place in the NFC West.
Good game coming up.
It's a big game, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot. The stakes are high for that one. So, yeah, I mean, I think that what this says is the Seahawks, they had a great season last year, but I mean, I'm not trying to overreact because it's week 1, but I'm looking forward to seeing the Rams and the Niners kind of have that battle of supremacy for the West in California, because for me, that I am just of the minority. I liked it when the Rams won the Super Bowl, opposed to the Seattle Seahawks, only because the history that we've had with the Seahawks over the years. Right. The Rams' history has not been that long-lived, because the Rams just moved to LA almost 7 years ago. And I watched Ballers with Dwayne Johnson. If you haven't watched that, y'all check it out on Netflix. That was a great series.
We got to talk about that, but
yes, we do.
We'll save that for another show.
For another show, right? But basically, there's a part in the season, not spoiling anything, but there's a part in the season where they end up going to Los Angeles, and they end up talking about the Rams right around their first Super Bowl run with Sean McVay back in 2018-19. I was in Chicago at the time, so I got to enjoy that. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, back to the point. Rams look good. Look out for Sean McVay. Look out for the Rams coming out. Dolphins Chargers is probably the game of the weekend, in my opinion. 36-34. Dolphins, obviously, Tua Tagovailoa had 446 yards passing. Yeah. Tyreek Hill had 215 yards receiving of 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, passing on Tua. When are we going to say Tua is elite? Because remember, we talked about this last year when Tua was injured, and we talked about NFL's player safety. Before that, he was throwing for, I want to say, he finished the season 25 touchdowns and 8 picks before he got injured, and he was on pace to basically throw for almost 40 on the year. Is it because of the receiving targets? Because I mean, even though you have the best receiving targets, you need to put it all together, and to put it all together, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can just be a game manager and put these numbers together. Obviously, yes, it does help to have a Tyreek Hill, arguably the best receiver in the game, right? Because of his speed and because of his hands and his ability as a receiver. But Tua has developed. But the problem, I think, is what everyone was talking about, on talk show radios and everywhere, was the fact that, the health, right? Can he stay healthy with his injury history, right? But with that said, I think when he's healthy, I think he's a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the league. I mean, it's remarkable to see how well this kid has played, given, how I mean, he's relatively new in the NFL, right? 3 years, but obviously told Trevor Lawrence with 2 and Jeff Fields and all the other guys. But I really liked what I saw. from Tua. I really like what I saw from the Dolphins. That's why I'm picking them to win the AFC East, all things considered right now.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins have it hands down. And I mean, everybody on that offensive side of the ball has lightning speed. I mean, they're tough. They're tough to beat, man.
Oh, absolutely. No, them boys, yeah, you can't mess with them. So let's keep going down the list. Packers at Bears. That was shocking because I think we both picked the Bears. Because obviously, like I said, I live in Chicago back in 2018 when last time they made the playoffs. Well, not the last time they made the playoffs, but the time before the last time because they made the playoffs in 2020. But the time before that, under Mitch, was 2018 when they had a double doink game. They should have won that game, in my opinion. But anyways, Jordan Love threw for 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that to me was a story of the NFC North outside the Lions' victory over the Chiefs. I mean, Jordan Love's debut was just remarkable, and the Packers defense held home the Bears to 20 points. I mean, you got dual threat quarterback in Justin Fields. You got a bunch of talent in my opinion. You got Mooney and some other guys on the receiving core. Mooney, right, and a few others. And so I really think that the Packers really kind of made a statement win over the Bears. And I really think it's Jordan Love's kind of coming out party because obviously the magnitude of the expectation for Jordan Love for who he's filling in for, that to me is kind of why it was such a statement win. And pretty much now moving down the list, Sunday night matchups, Cowboys 40 over Giants 0. I don't know who we picked. Did you pick the Cowboys? Or
No,
the Giants?
No, man. I picked the Giants because both of us were in agreement on this one point.
Yeah,
we've never been down with the star, and we never will. But shout out to Ray Leonard Jr. and his Cowboys on this one. I mean, nobody expected them to shut out the Giants. I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think the Cowboys. One thing that really kind of struck out to me. I mean, obviously we knew how good the defense was, but I mean, just the ground game, even though Dak Prescott had pedestrian numbers, Tony Pollard had 2 touchdowns and 70 carries. I mean, and, obviously that was due to a lot of turnovers. And Daniel Jones basically against a great defense, really looked, mediocre at best. And I mean, I was never high on Daniel Jones. I thought it was an overreach to draft him at number 6 overall, 4 years ago. So I think that, what this game said was basically, the Cowboys are a top 3 team in the NFC, unfortunately. And yeah, but, I mean, in order for him to get to that number 1 or 2 spot, they're going to have to take out the number 1 or 2 team, which is basically the final matchup, which we're going to talk about. My San Francisco 49ers over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 30-7. Brock Purdy on the day had 2 touchdowns, 30 over almost, I want to say 67% completion, 1929 completions over attempts, 220 yards passing. Christian McCaffrey had 150 yards ground rushing on 22 carries and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk had 8 receptions for 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. The reason why I don't say the Cowboys are the best team in the NFC is because of the fact that I have a team right here in my backyard, which you see right here, who proved that they can go on the road against a premier Pro Bowl defense with the likes of Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Patrick Peterson, who Brandon Ayuk, who Brock Purdy targeted through twice with Brandon Ayuk and got 2 touchdowns on the day. 2 of his touchdowns were on an 8-time Pro Bowl corner, Patrick Peterson. The Niners look like a team that can basically, redeem themselves for last season. And, I'm sure that they're all hungry, to get back to the NFC Championship and, right that wrong in their minds.
Yeah, I mean, they're out for blood. And, I don't see the Cowboys beating them, man, in the playoffs.
Oh, no. I mean, the Niners have beaten the Cowboys in consecutive seasons back-to-back in the postseason, last season and the season before. The only difference is the Cowboys made it to the round past the wild card round last year, and then they end up getting their asses whooped again. And so I'm looking forward to seeing us whoop their ass again whenever we do play them, because we are playing week 5. I'm just talking, but at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of my boys, Anthony Jenkins, he's a Cowboys fan. You might be watching this. Shout out, Antoine. He goes by Twan. Basically, keeping it real though. When I'm looking forward to week 5, when the Cowboys do come to Levi's and we have to play them, that game is going to be a monster game because I'm anticipating. I don't think either team will have a loss. If it is a loss, maybe it's seeing by 1 or 2 max. And there's going to be some serious implications, in my opinion, for home field advantage in the NFC based on that matchup. Just like the week 12, week 13 matchup when the Niners have to go to Philadelphia and play the Eagles. I think the Eagles are not as good as they were last year, But I do think that they're competitive enough to basically contend for that wild card spot in the NFC, if not win the division like they did last year against Dallas, because I think Dallas is just loaded. I mean, one thing I forgot to mention was some of the additions that the Niners made in free agency, such as Javon Hargrave from the Philadelphia Eagles. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he did have a sack on the day. Let me check and make sure. Yes, he did. Javon Hargrave did have a sack on the day and 2 tackles. The reigning defense player of the year, Nick Bosa, had a pretty quiet day, but he did open up the lanes for other guys, such as Kerry Hyder, who had a sack, and Drake Jackson had 3 sacks on. So the Niners defense combined had 5 sacks against that Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line.
Wow.
So that's and I mean, with that said, I mean you got the Rams coming in. The Rams did have a great game against Seattle, but I don't know who they have on the offensive line, and I don't know if Seattle's front four or any other one on Seattle's defensive line is of the caliber of players that the Niners have. Javon Hargrave, basically had 40 sacks over the past 3 years. You had Nick Bosa, speaks for itself. Drake Jackson it was a coming out game for him. I mean, I knew he was good. I didn't know he was that good. And I mean, Kerry Hyder, and not to mention Javon Kinlaw, who's had injury history, but I mean, he played the run so well. I mean, he had a solid game, wire to wire. If he can stay healthy, I mean, this team, even if he can't stay healthy, this team is so loaded. I mean, it's ridiculous. And obviously, Fred Warner, arguably the best, middle linebacker in the NFL. Him and Drake Greenlaw, the best linebacker tandem in the NFL. Obviously, the secondary, Tano Hufanga, who made a Pro Bowl his rookie year, had a pick on the day. He had 5 tackles, was a third leading tackler, on the day. Lenore, obviously, a great corner. That was his rookie year last year, and he had his lead tackler yesterday. 8 solo tackles, 2 assists. I mean, Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward also had a pick and 2 tackles. I mean, Deshaun Gibson, who basically signed to replace Jimmy Ward, that was my biggest question mark because we lost so many key pieces, both on the offensive line and defense. I was really concerned with how well the secondary would look. But seeing how well Deshaun Gibson stepped up, how well Hufanga stepped up, how well Lenore, especially, who was a rookie last year, ended up leading the team with tackles on the day. That to me kind of inspired. I feel like it inspired confidence amongst the team, and it definitely, for the fan base, we definitely have a lot to be excited about. That's pretty much it.
Awesome, brother. So let's take a look at this week 2.
Oh, you ready for this week? Let's go.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me get it going. All right, Thursday matchup tomorrow: Vikings at Eagles. It's hilarious because this was the week 2 matchup last year. Remember this was the week 2.
Exactly.
But these teams aren't the same teams.
No.
Who wants to see this? I don't want to see Minnesota travel across the country and get clobbered again on Thursday Night Football. I really don't. I mean, last year was Jalen Hurts' coming out party. It was great when it's a coming out party, but what, part 2? I mean, what has changed? The Vikings just got worse. Considerably worse. And I mean, one thing I forgot to mention about the Eagles, one thing that they showed against the Patriots, that secondary can be had. They are not looking like the same secondary as last year. James Bradbury is injured. Obviously, Slade does not look like the same player from last. I don't know. I think it's like, a lead actor is only as good as a supporting cast. Like a movie can't make money unless you got, the cast and the script and, the director calling the shots. Not saying Nick Sirianni isn't a good coach, but to put it plainly, he's not a good coach. I really think that, looking forward to tomorrow. Vikings did not play good on Sunday against Baker Mayfield. Going back on a short week, traveling across country, it's going to favor Philadelphia. But then again, the stranger things have happened. Week 1, if there's anything that we learned, it's any given Sunday. So many of the teams who you would not expect to win, who were basically, against the spread, ended up winning, the underdogs, right? So with that said, I'm gonna take the Eagles just by default, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings keep it close or somehow, pull it out because the Eagles, like I said, Kirk Cousins had 334 passing yards against the Buccaneers. And like I said, the secondary of the Eagles do not, with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen coming in, there are opportunities that the Vikings can exploit that secondary, which people are not talking about. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing that. But I'm going to pick the Eagles in another close one, probably 21-17.
Well, I think it's going to be a close one too. But I'm going to pick the Vikings on this one.
Okay. Yes, sir. And what's your final score prediction?
I'm sorry.
What's your final score prediction for the game?
I'm going to go with 28-21.
28-21. Okay, there we go. Next one, AFC North matchup. Ravens at Cincinnati. Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one. But I'm gonna go for the Ravens on this one.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens too. Something's wrong with the Bengals. I don't know what it is. I think Joe Burrow. I mean, a lot of people are saying he might be injured. He very well might be. And if he is, then I mean, you're not going to play that Ravens. Roquan Smith and that Baltimore defense is just. I mean, you saw against the Texans, the Bengals. You saw how they played against the Browns defense. I'm not saying the Ravens are better than the Browns defense, but they're on par.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And I think Lamar Jackson didn't even have a good game last week. If he has a good game this week, with Odell Beckham Jr., right? And I mean, it's really I'm going the Ravens, and obviously shout out to Coach Keith Williams on the Ravens, my college coach, San Jose College. Keep doing your thing, baby. Love you, Coach. Move right along. Seahawks at Lions. Ooh, at Detroit.
I'm picking Detroit on this one, man.
Of course. Yeah. But I'm picking the Lions to beat the Seahawks down because we are in the NFC West here, and we do not screw or mess with any Seahawks. Them jokers can do whatever they want to do, but as Niners fans, we got to make sure that they get what's coming to them.
Yeah.
I think Jared Goff, if Matt Stafford, and the Lions running game, I think is better than the Rams running game. No disrespect to Cam Akers. I think the Lions offensive line is a little bit better. I mean, they've not necessarily better. They're on par with the Rams offensive. Well, I don't know how good the Rams offensive line is. That's the thing. I mean, after Andrew Whitworth retired, I'm not sure who they have, and you know what I mean? I know Joseph Noteboom, and I think he moved. I don't know who's on the Rams. I think the Lions with Jared Goff is a more lethal passing threat at this stage in his career than Matt Stafford, which is hilarious because they were swapped for each other for this trade for when you know what I mean, from Detroit to LA. So I mean, it's hilarious. But yeah, I'm thinking the Lions are going to win. I'm going to pick the Lions 40-22.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Next up, Colts at Texans, AFC South matchup. I don't really care that. I'm not that invested in these two teams. They're probably going to be the bottom of the AFC South. Texans at home, young team. Colts. I guess the Colts can take it. I want DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud, this young team, to make a statement. I'm picking the Colts to win, probably a close one, probably 21-17. So
this is a toss-up for me, but I'm going to pick the Colts.
Yeah, but what's more to say? Bears at Buccaneers. Okay, this is a good one for me because I want to see how Justin Fields rebounds, and I want to see Baker Mayfield keep the consistency. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna pick Baker Mayfield to keep the momentum going. I'm gonna go Buccaneers over Bears, 28-24.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to see the Buccaneers get beat down because they're in the same division as the Falcons. So I'm going to pick the Bears on this one, man.
All righty. What's final score?
I'm going to say 27-20.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, right there. 28-24, 27-20. A single score, no margin between either way. Chiefs at Jags. That's AFC divisional rematch. I think the Chiefs. Well, no. I think the Chiefs will be motivated, but I think the Jags have something. Again, they have something to improve too. I think Florida, there's a lot of teams down there which are very competitive this year or have a chance to be. I'm going to pick the Jags to get to avenge their playoff loss last year. I'm going to pick the Jags to win 31-28.
Well, I think, Kansas City is coming off a hard, devastating loss. I think they're going to be looking for revenge on this one, so I'm picking the Chiefs.
Final score?
This is going to be a close one. I'm going to say 28-24.
Perfect. All righty. Packers at Falcons. Rise up.
That's right, brother. You already know what my pick is, but I'm gonna say 35-28.
Ooh, yeah, that's a high scoring matchup. Yeah, I think the Falcons defense is better than the Bears defense. I think the Packers are a little bit better than the Panthers, though. Now, see, the problem is I don't know how good Jordan Love is. Yes, we saw how good he played against a divisional opponent who he was favored, who they were not favored to beat, to go in hostile territory and get that win. But the Falcons also defended home field against another divisional opponent. So these are two young teams, right? Two young teams, opposite sides of the same coin, essentially, and basically, they're both out trying to build and prove something. Yeah, I'll go with the home team on this. I'll go with the Falcons. 28-24. But I wouldn't surprise me if the Packers end up winning. I see a lot of similarities, with both these teams, and there could definitely, and I'm expecting a really competitive, great matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive. Raiders at Bills.
That's going to be a good one.
Oh yeah,
but I'm going to say the Raiders on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders too, only because I like Jimmy Garoppolo, and somehow the guy just wins. I mean, he's now, if I'm not mistaken, his winning percentage is around over 7,500, like around almost at 800. It was 800 during the Super Bowl year, and he just finds ways to win. With Josh McDaniel, obviously, you saw how they could put it together. It's going to be an upset, but the Bills coming off a tough loss. I won't be surprised if the Bills win. And I mean, I hate to say it, but I could see the Raiders getting mollywopped because it is at Buffalo, and they're probably angry. But at the same time, Josh Allen looks lost without Brian Daboll as offensive coordinator, and you've seen how well Brian Daboll can do as a head coach based on last season. I think the Cowboys game was an anomaly. I think the Cowboys are that good. I don't think the Giants are that bad, so to speak. So, I mean, with that said, I'll pick the Raiders in a close one, probably the same score last week. 17-16. Won't be surprised if the Bills win because it's a home game.
Okay.
Chargers at Titans.
That's a good one too.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna pick the Chargers.
I'm picking the Chargers too. I think the Titans are basically near that closing that window of playoff contention. Reason I'm saying that is because Derrick Henry is I mean, was he 29, which is old, which is basically like 70 in like running back years. So I mean, and they've been running him ragged. Ryan Tannehill's 34. He's 35. He's like basically my age, a few years younger, give or take. I really think Vrabel's a great coach, but I don't know, what they have to offer, on both sides of the ball. When they lost AJ Brown, to the Eagles, I mean, and you saw, how well AJ Brown did, his first season with Philly. I mean, it's, the Titans have basically, and you saw how many opportunities they had last week against the Saints. They right the wrong? Yes, because it's at home and against Chargers and not at San Diego, but LA, the Chargers, they've also struggled to capitalize on opportunities. But I mean, I'm picking the Chargers are close. I'm gonna probably go Chargers 21-19.
Interesting.
Okay, my favorite, the game of the weekend, in my opinion. 49ers at Rams. Los Angeles battle for supremacy in the NFC West in California. Who do you got and why?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I like the 49ers. So I'm going with the 49ers. I think they're going to whip up on them, man.
Ooh, whip up.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's what I say.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm so salty about the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship loss, which results in the Rams end up going to the Super Bowl and winning, which is great. I mean, because for California, outside of the Rams winning, California had not won a Super Bowl in, I want to say 28 years, which was the Niners last time, 1995 with Steve Young. I was very young at that time, but I mean, I still remember Steve Young's other playoff moments, like the catch through to T.O. That's, and many others, right? Jerry Rice, obviously, everyone knows, who Jerry Rice is, right? But back to the point, the Niners and the Rams, obviously, battle for NFC West supremacy for first place. I think, even though the Rams have not historically done well against Kyle Shanahan and the Niners, I believe, were 7-0 or 8-0 against the Rams in the postseason. Oh, no, not postseason. In the regular season. They're 0-1 against the postseason in the McVay-Shanahan era. I think that's going to continue. I don't have any reason to believe otherwise. But then again, I mean, that the Rams did surprise me last week with how well they played against Seattle. But the Niners, one good thing about the games is that they always invade well. And when they invade, LA, it's always a great, great matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome game.
It's going to be an awesome game. Okay, Giants at Cardinals. Who you got?
I mean, both of these teams are at the bottom. But I'm going to go for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cardinals too.
I'm not expecting anything from the Giants on this one.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm going with the Giants only because they're going to be motivated. Brian Daboll is going to have them motivated. The Cardinals don't have anyone on that team. I don't know who's on the Cardinals right now. Like, who's the quarterback? Josh Dobbs? From Pittsburgh, right? I mean, who's on the Cardinals right now?
Does anybody care? I mean,
the Giants still have Saquon Barkley. The Giants still have Daniel Jones. The Giants still have a lot of great pieces, and they're still a playoff team that won a playoff game last year. They're a good team. That's what I said
Okay,
earlier.
so based on that, you're going for the Giants.
I'm going for the Giants. I'm also personally motivated because it is against an NFC West opponent.
Okay.
The Cardinals, right? I'm going to pick the Giants probably 24-10.
All right.
Because the Cardinals aren't that good. Yeah, they're not that good. Oh man, Jets to Cowboys. God, this was going to be such a marquee matchup. This was originally going to be the game of the weekend.
Oh yeah.
Until what we talked about when we opened the show, Aaron Rodgers AR8's injury. So man. What can I say? I mean, it's without. I mean, Zach Wilson barely. I want to say 135 yards last week. Obviously, Dak had the same numbers, but the Cowboys defense is worlds better than the Jets defense. They're literally a top 3 defense, arguably in the entire league. And Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. I mean, shit. I mean, God, yeah.
I don't see how you could bet against the Cowboys on this one.
Right, especially at home. So I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I'm gonna go Cowboys 35 to 3.
35 to 3.
35 to 3.
Wow. Okay.
What about you?
I see a blowout too, man. But I mean, I saw what they did to the Giants, and I don't think it gets any better for the Jets. So yeah. I'm gonna say 42 to 10, maybe.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be ugly. I mean it's. I mean they do have Garrett Wilson. They do have Quinnen Williams. One of the top 3 defensive tackles in the league. They do have Sauce Gardner, arguably a top 3 corner in the league, right? So they do have talent, here and there. We saw them put it together against the Bills, but Josh Allen, can they force Dak Prescott to do that? I don't know. And the question goes, and I know the Cowboys defense can make Zach Wilson do that because I've seen Zach Wilson do that multiple times last year, the season before. I mean, if you watch the Manning cast when they're watching the Monday Night Football matchup between the Jets and the Bills, and Peyton Manning was just disgusted with how Zach was running backwards and he looked completely incompetent in the pocket.
Wow.
There's a reason why. You got to pick against the Jets. So, okay, Commanders at Broncos. I'm not even invested. I'm just gonna go Commanders just by Ron Rivera default. Because Russell Wilson hasn't gotten it together. That team is. I mean, I don't know. I really think the Commanders they have something to prove. They have they have a lot of good receiving talent. Terry McLaurin, not to mention one of the under the radar great receivers in the league. I think they can exploit the. I mean, Broncos do have Patrick Surtain Jr., one of the top corners in the league. Just like Sauce Gardner, right? But I think I'm picking the Commanders to win a close one, 20-17.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Commanders, especially in the preseason, and their defense is great. So I'm going to go for them.
Final score?
I think it's going to be close, though, Asif. Yeah. I'm going to say something like 30 to 35.
Ooh, that's a high scoring game.
Yeah.
I'm staying with 2017 because I think the defenses will show up. I'm not expecting either quarterback and either offense to basically run up the score like that because I think those defenses are like you said, great. So Dolphins at Patriots, AFC East matchup. That might be a good one. Might be.
That is a good one. I'm going for the Dolphins, though.
I'm going for the Dolphins, too. I'm going to pick the Dolphins to win it. It's going to be a close one because it's a divisional game. I'm going to pick the Dolphins to win 28-25.
I'm going to say something close to that, 28-24.
Okay. Next one you're going to love because you love both these teams. Saints at Panthers.
I mean, they could destroy each other. I don't care. But on the last episode, I said that in our division, it's going to be the Falcons, Carolina, and then the Saints. So I'm expecting Carolina to win this.
I disagree with you. I think the Saints are going to win. They're going to win. They should have lost last week. They found a way to win. Derek Carr is a great quarterback. Bryce Young is a very young quarterback. Yes, Brian Burns is a premier defensive lineman, like I said earlier, but that's all that I can think of that's elite on the Panthers, on both sides of the ball. Since they traded DJ Moore to Chicago, I mean, I don't even know who the receivers are. I don't even know who their tight end is. So I think with that said, Saints still have Marshawn Lattimore. Saints still have Derek Carr. Saints still have Darren Allen. There's a lot of experience, so to speak. I think Bryce Young may. I think. Well, no. I mean, he struggled. He's going to continue to struggle. I mean, what can I say? This is a new young team who's in a rebuild. I mean, that's why they had the first overall pick, right? I mean, what else can I say? I think the Saints are a better team, and I agree to you to an extent, but I disagree. I think it's going to be the Saints and the Falcons for the division. If somehow the Buccaneers can't, figure out a way to get there, we'll see, how good the Buccaneers truly are. It's really up to Baker, who's proven he can be very consistent. But I think the Saints are a better team. I think the Saints are going to go there. They're going to win. It's going to be a close one because it's a divisional game. It's going to be 24-21.
Yeah, I can see a close game too. But I see Carolina pulling it out. So I'm going to say 2017.
2017. I like Carolina more than the Saints if I had to pick one. But I just, like I said, experience and just, all the reasons I mentioned. Last but not least, the Monday night matchup, AFC North matchup, Browns at Steelers.
This is a good game, too.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm picking the Browns.
Yeah. I mean, I think Kenny Pickett is good. I think he's a solid, great young quarterback. I think what the Browns did to a elite quarterback last year, the highest paid player in the NFL in history. I don't see any reason why that won't continue. Chase Claypool's not. Again, I don't know who's on the Pittsburgh receiving core. Chase Claypool's not there, and I don't know who they really have. I know the running backs. I know. Najee Harris is a great backfield threat. And I know that, like I said, Pro Bowl talent on the defense side of the ball. Cam Hayward, TJ, but he's injured now, right? Cam's out. Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt. I don't know what his status is. I mean, a lot of question marks, but I think Myles Garrett on the Cleveland Browns defensive line. I mean, you got a bunch of dogs. Nick Chubb, like I said, a top two running back in the NFL. I mean, Deshaun Watson, my personal feelings aside, he's a great quarterback when healthy. And I saw him play in person when I went to Houston 6 years ago to play the Browns, who we ended up getting traded to. So, I mean, it's, I'm picking the Browns. I'm picking the Browns probably. It's not going to be close. I think it's going to be 21-10. Close, low scoring defensive matchup.
Okay. I'm going to say 28-20.
Okay. High scoring. Yeah. Okay. And that rounds out the week 2 picks. I want to foreshadow a little bit because I want to talk about the Niners a little bit more. Not necessarily because of my fandom. Well, because of that, but also because right after this week, they're going to lead off week 3 with a Thursday matchup against the Giants at home. So, and then after that week, they're going to actually play again. I want to say, yes, week 4. They have a 10-day break, but then they play again at home against the Cardinals. That means starting from Sunday, they're going to play 3 times in the next 2 weeks. So,
are you serious? Wow.
Yes. Again, so Sunday against the Rams, Thursday against the Giants, next Sunday against the Cardinals.
It's a rough schedule.
It is. Granted, these opponents outside of the Rams aren't that good. The Giants are a playoff team last year. And we'll see how good they are this Sunday. This coming Sunday. And obviously the Cardinals. 2 of those games are divisional games. Divisional games are always tough, So with that said, the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're going to see how good the Niners are over the next 2 weeks. It's going to be very telling to see how well they can adjust, how talented they are, because I believe not shortly after that, let me just check and make sure. Yep. The reason why I'm bringing all that up is because what we talk about the Cowboys and how we both hate the Cowboys, but how I believe they're the top 3 team in the NFC. After the next 3 games, on October 8th, they will play Dallas in San Francisco on Sunday night.
Oh, well, that's a win for San Francisco.
I wish I could just be as exuding confidence as you. Right. Yeah, we're going to walk over the Cowboys. No. That's going to be a marquee match. That's a game of arguably of the year based on, how well both these teams are stacked up, how talented they are. The reason I'm bringing all this up is because we're going to see very quickly how the landscape of the NFC will shift. We talked about how Aaron Rodgers' injury shifted the landscape of the AFC East. I'm very curious to see how these matchups shape the landscape of the entire NFC, because it will shape the landscape of the NFC, both for the NFC East, which has the defending NFC champion, the Eagles, going toe-to-toe with the Cowboys for that supremacy, and obviously for the Niners, who were in the NFC Championship last year, who are obviously looking forward to trying to get that, get back there and obviously avenge that loss. So I'm really interested to see how well Brock Purdy does, because he has not lost a game which he was not injured outside the Philadelphia Eagles game. And all the talk show hosts are saying, obviously he's 6-0 so far, right? From the regular season all the way through now, including the playoffs, he is he's 6-0 as a starter. Can he continue this momentum up and stay undefeated, right? All the way through, the next 4 games against 2 divisional opponents, and then obviously Dallas, which is a storied rivalry, and obviously now 2 of the elite teams in the NFC. I'm very curious to see how it shapes out.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be an epic matchup.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We will be back next week with Asif Ali. Take care.
Thank you.